Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So, for this book, though the translations are also available, I decided to do it in English as that is how Professor Puran Singhji wrote it. The book is one of his last works and I liked it a lot. In order to properly understand this book, we read it in a group and discussed on each chapter thoroughly. So, by doing that, we were able to get some great insights and different perspectives. So, I would recommend that you also discuss it with people who have read it, if that's possible. Now, Puran Singhji has used some words that listeners may find difficult to understand, so I've added meanings of those words in order in which they come to the description of this video. Fair warning, the book may overwhelm you in the beginning, but it's unlike anything that you may have read. So hang in there and you may just be able to take away valuable lessons that will always stay with you. Spirit of the Sikh Part 1 by Professor Puran Singh. Introductory. Spirit of the Sikh, written between 1927 and 1930, is perhaps the last work of Professor Puran Singh. Unless what, according to the statement of his son, the late Raminder Singh, he scribbled on his bedside charts while lying sick, be taken into account. He caught the fatal disease of tuberculosis during the last years of the decade of the 20s. And this assuming the galloping character, he passed away in March 1931. Puran Singh's whole life was passed in writing activity that may be called feverish without the implication of a mere metaphor. A vast mass of work poured out from his pen on the science of biochemistry, in which he held a professorship at the Imperial Forest Research Institute, Dehradun, English bellus letters expressive of fervent devotion to the holy gurus of Sikhism and their teaching, and of warm humanitarianism. In addition, towards the last decade of his life, cut short so cruelly, he poured out those writings in Punjabi, prose and poetry that have acquired the status of classics in the language. The total mass of what he wrote is truly astounding, and it might be said that his entire working life was devoted to writing, while no doubt in his sleeping hours his mind must have lived with his themes in a dream. There is about his writings a dreamy, otherworldly quality, a strong urge to escape from the basis of the mundane reality of profit and loss and the Machiavellian diplomacy of self-aggrandisement, all which makes him romantic in the basic and primary sense of what is opposed to everyday reality. His fervour and passion carry the reader along on a powerful wave, so that irresistibly he is made to touch certain heights and depths of experience that leave the heart and the imagination bathed in fervent passion. Passion is his element, and in that he abides. A kind intellectual inebriation habitually grips him, and it is under the heady influence of that he wields the pen. To make a brief mention of the English writings of Puran Singh, of which the present book would form part, some of these were published in Great Britain half a century ago, and became justly famous, particularly among the readers attuned to absorbing the devotional literature pertaining to the teachings of Sikhism and of the characteristic immanentist Vedantist vision that has been one of the great contributions of India to world culture. Puran Singh was temperamentally a mystic. For several years he remained sannyasi, was close to Swami Ram Tirath, on whom he wrote a book which still is indispensable on this theme, and later came under the spell of the mystical bhakti of Sikhism, to which he returned after the alienation of several years. The discovery by Puran Singh's soul of what may be called the romance of religion has been a fortunate accident, both for the literature of religious experience associated with Sikhism and for the Indian movement of romanticism in Punjabi letters. Puran Singh poured out in both these traditions writing that is rich and powerful and should find him a place in the galaxy of those who have given expression to the devotional urge and passion of our people in the Indian languages and in English. Puran Singh's English work that has already been published, part of it reissued, includes The Book of the Ten Masters, Sisters of the Spinning Wheel, The Spirit-Born People, The Spirit of Oriental Poetry, Seven Baskets of Prose Poems, and Swami Rama. This last being the story of the famous yogi Ramatirath, who too, like Puran Singh, came from the Punjab. Besides what has seen the light of the day, some work of greater magnitude and most likely of a maturer and more comprehensive level of experience still remains unpublished. Of this unpublished work, the two most considerable are Spirit of the Sikh, that is of the nature of a voluminous series of moments of spiritual vision growing out of the teachings of Guru Nanak and his holy successors, and Prakasina, a novel, which, as the author says in the subtitle, is the story of a Buddhist princess. Both these came in manuscript form to the Punjabi University, which has a project of salvaging whatever of the creative effort of the genius of the Punjab falls within the scope of its several departments established towards this end. Spirit of the Sikh is found preserved in typescript in 3 substantial volumes, slightly mutilated here and there because of the vicissitudes of being preserved for half a century, but nevertheless intact more or less. The typescript has in numerous places been retouched and the expression improved in the author's own handwriting, which should make these bond volumes valuable archive material pertaining to the culture and letters of the Punjab. The present work is through continuous and related portions built on a particular, somewhat fanciful, out of the longer mass. It appears that back in 1930, when laid down with his sickness that proved fatal, the author made approach to a well-known publishing firm of Lahore for its publication. But the publication could not be arranged at the time. In consequence, this portion, along with the larger work, has remained unpublished for near upon half a century. Spirit of the Sikh, as its title would indicate, is the author's expression of devotional passion arising out of the teachings of the holy gurus, the religious history of Sikhism, and his understanding of the ideals underlying the practice of the Sikh faith. In adumbrating this theme, the author, besides lyrical effusions expressive of fervor and devotional passion, makes continual resort to the Sikh sacred writings, Gurbani. The lives of the holy gurus and the entire lore of Sikh piety, in its history and what may be called its hagiology. All this matter pours forth from the writer's pen in a flood of vehement passion, somewhat in the style of Carlyle's exhortations, by whom Puran Singh appears in no small degree to be influenced. The characteristic Carlylean effects, such as constant exhortation in a raised tone, the use of capitals wherever a striking term expressive of spiritual experience occurs, and the general mystical tone, are ubiquitous in Puran Singh's writings. In the course of editing the present work for publication, some of this fervor and passion has had to directed along lines of greater stylistic discipline in the sheer interest of acceptability of what otherwise would be beyond the average reader's capacity to absorb Carlyle's famous work. Heroes and Hero Worship was issued in a Punjabi rendering by Puran Singh under the title Kalatari Te Kalatari Puja. This rendering is soulful and truly enters into the spirit of the original work. It may further be pointed out that the doctrine of the great person as the source of powerful movement in human history is firmly held by Puran Singh like his great Victorian mentor, and flashes of this belief may be met with constantly in his writings. Besides Carlyle and other great Western writers who have influenced Puran Singh are Goethe and Walt Whitman. Of Whitman's Leaves of Grass also he has left a Punjabi rendering, and his own style in Punjabi poetry is free verse of the Whitmanton pattern. As the theme of Spirit of Sikh is the expression of fervent devotion to the holy Gurus in lyrical outbursts, in prose charged with deep emotion, it time and again becomes fragments of prose poems. This devotional fervor takes in its grasp reflections of Gurbani, the sacred texts from the Guru Granth Sahib, and anecdotes from the spiritual experience of men of God, those held to occupy exalted spiritual status along with the simple devoted souls. While Sikh, rendered properly as disciple by the writer, does overwhelmingly imply those professing to be the followers of Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh, the term is given also to the wider universal connotations of comprehending all those who have been favored with the experiences of direct communion with the highest, whatever the formal creed they might have professed. Particularly significant in this context is mention of experience of certain Christian mystics and quoted texts from the New Testament. Religious experience thus oversteps the confines of the creeds and becomes in the widest sense Gyan that oversteps cradle or national boundaries. The objects of homage and devotion nevertheless are the holy Gurus of the Sikh faith, through whose word Puran Singh found the experience of the life divine. Among those whose experience and witness to God are recounted, the Sikh devotees named and those nameless predominate. To the believing Sikh seeking divine grace in the form of devotion to the Guru's teaching, the following pages hold something akin to the text redolent of bhakti and the higher levels of God consciousness. Withal, they emphasize that synthesis of devotion with the life of religion lived in beneficent action in the seva or service, commended in the teaching of the Guru, that constitutes part of the larger appeal of Sikhism. To study it, therefore, is like the rest of the work of Puran Singh. To expose oneself to the religious experience in the form of its deeper appeal, wherein the heart is left converted in an overwhelming flood of emotion and tears of joy of communion with God. A work about the technique of presentation of experience in this book. This is done through the reflections and meditations of certain individual mystics drawn from the various traditions who, in the writer's fancy, accord with spirit which the writer holds to be the essence of the experience of devotional Sikhism. This company is truly cosmopolitan, just as the world of reference of each individual mystic is. In this process, historical time is telescoped and past and present are merged in a kaleidoscopic marvelous amalgam. That, however, is only in keeping with the writer's general approach to reality, which is timeless and not confined within the categories what is ordinarily known as realism. The subtitle, in referencing those experiences are recorded, calls these appreciation by invisible friends. Among the mystics providing guidance to the Sikh on the path of devotion are those acknowledged such like Namdev, Shah Behlol, who sat at the feet of Guru Nanak in Baghdad, and Bhartari Hari, besides a host of others with deep spiritual experience such as Goethe. Then there are airy personages, the Akali, the five horsemen, the Himalayan maiden, songsters of the mid-air or Gandharvas, the swordsman that goes before the sun, the sisters of song gathered on the river Ravi, and several others. Of the same poetic strain are the pearl sawyers of sky and the blue churners of the sea. There is Ganika, the bad woman of Indian mythology, sister to the women who erred in the New Testament story, on whom, nevertheless, grace descended for her repentance. Puran Singh's presentation of her supplication is noble and recalls, besides Christian charity, the Buddhist compassion of the bhikkhu who visited the courtesan when she was lying ill and deformed with sores. A beautiful supplication recalling the rhythm and appeal of Tennyson's In Memoriam is included. Also included in this company is the mystic poet of 17th century Punjab, Shah Hussain. This may surprise those who are aware of the antinomian attitude of this mendicant mystic. Still more surprising would be the inclusion of Omar Khayyam in his poetic experience, a pessimist hedonist, and Heer, the heroine of the famous romance of the Punjab. The only formula that would comprehend all these diverse personalities and appropriate them to the experience and practice of the Sikh faith is the writer's belief that it is in the yearning heart that the true essence of religion lies, and not in learning and ratiocination. Repudiated equally are Puritanism and formalism. In all this, not every believer may agree to find the true elements of his creed, but the overwhelming fervor of devotion, which is predominant theme, would seem to reconcile paradoxes and anomalous juxtapositions. Puran Singh wrote always at the white heat of the creative fever, which usually became inspiration and resulted in spurts of writing which rises to greatness. But with him, usually the first formulations stayed, and seldom was there much scope for close revision and that achievement of a perfectly expressive form that meets us in the greatest writers in the world literature. So, the resultant quality of what was written by Puran Singh depended on the range, grasp, and quality of the first impulse or inspiration under which he wrote. The result of that has been writing which is essentially unequal, and the existence of passages that should have been subjected by the author to revision. That being not possible, the labor of the present editor had to be somewhat more painstaking and in places not a little painful. The problem was to present to the world the experience of a writer of undoubted genius on such a noble and sensitive theme as the devotional essence of Sikhism that threw a great responsibility on whoever was to prepare it for public presentation. That is wherein the editor is to make a plea to be understood in his labors. While writing out Spirit of the Sikh, Puran Singh's mind was subjected not only to his usual impatience of delay and the labor of revision, which to him must have appeared uninspired work, but also the onset of his fatal disease, which must have kept him restless. And yet, despite these handicaps, what has herein been achieved is work of an irresistible appeal. The reader will be able to analyze for himself the various directions from which spiritual experiences poured into shape Puran Singh's total view of devotional and humane religion. Besides Sikhism and Vedanta, there are two major influences, Christianity and Buddhism. The grace and compassion inherent in the teachings of these faiths are echoed constantly in his writing. A word about the renderings from Gurbani frequently occurring in the course of this writing to identify these and relate them to their proper context in the Granth Sahib called Guru Granth by Puran Singh is made difficult by the renderings being very wide of the literal parallels and being in fact what are called transcreations in a very free sense. It should have been observed by those who have made some study of Gurbani that similar affirmations are found in different places in it with no very wide verbal variations, where the excerpt quoted is only a couplet or a line. Such identification becomes extremely difficult. Where, however, the passage cited is of some continuous length, the process is rendered easily. This difficulty has to be pointed out to the reader so that a kind of running spirit of collaboration between the editor of these writings and the reader may be established. In order properly to enter into the spirit of these writings, the reader will be well advised to familiarize himself with the spiritual history of the Sikh people. Certain names and allusions that occur are elucidated briefly in the footnotes. The names of the holy founders of the Sikh faith, Guru Nanak, Guru Arjan Dev, Guru Tegh Bahadur, and Guru Gobind Singh should be familiar to most readers. So should the names that allusions associated with Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. Besides the knowledge of the general cultural background of the Punjab, so deeply loved by Puran Singh and woven into his creative experience, would be an essential prerequisite for a better understanding. Punjab is moreover the home and the holy land of the Sikh people, whose spiritual experience forms the main theme of these writings. The editor must acknowledge with gratitude and encouragement received from the authorities of the Punjabi University, Patiala, which has formulated large and comprehensive plans carrying on research in the cultural roots of the Punjabi people. It is to be hoped that the publication of the present book will not only add an important new dimension of awareness about the total literacy achievements of Puran Singh, but will be absorbing interest of students of the higher aspects of religion and of the Sikh faith, whose study has only recently caught on in the academic sphere. Patiala, 1st July 1976. Gurbachan Singh Talib.
The Kinship of Ages by Bhagat Namdev. Note: such authorship notes are not meant to be taken factually. These are intended rather to emphasize the spiritual vision associated with different personalities. Namdev or Namdev was the great Maharashtrian saint whose hymns have found a place in the Holy Granth, scripture of the Sikh faith. The White Dove. In all ages, the life of the Spirit descends on man as heaven's great favor. It is truly the alighting of the Holy Ghost on one's shoulder as a little white dove. Initiation into discipleship, or Sikhi as we in the Punjab call it, is inspiration. It is the intimate and perennial and companionship of the immortals, the powerful ones of the unseen realms, or Panch Parvan, Panch Pradhan as Guru Nanak refers to them in Japji, or protectors. In the rapture of the soul, one sees the vision of the beautiful ones, angels and gods of the sublimated moral and spiritual world of souls. And there are the great emancipated ones who protect the initiated from all harm on the path of divine love, bright and swift of action like the keen edge of a sword. Inspiration of divine life. This inspiration is not limited to any chosen race or color or caste. It is flowing invisibly on all the white threads of life that bind it back to its sources. It is like the sea flowing and filling all the creeks. At times, even the dumb animals rise to the highest pitch of pure divinity in their feelings, and the power of God is inherent in all sentient beings, just as the sea is inherent in every wave. The prayer, the unuttered wordless prayer even of a mother doe, is heard by Subuktagin of Ghazni. He gets a throne for the simple act of pleasing the heart of God that also beats under the ribs of a mother doe. Note: Subuktagin of Ghazni, father of Mahmud Ghazni, the story of his releasing from snare a young doe out of pity is well known. I will add a link to this story in the description box for those who want to read the entire story in detail. Feeling is all in all. In this great sympathy lies the secret of creation. When this is found, all is found. When this is known, all is known. All true culture lies in this culture of self-realization. Feeling is all in all, concludes Goethe. The continuous glow of this feeling burning in one's bosom is as the red charcoal glowing in the soft nest of ash. Religion is the priceless inheritance of man. With it, it is his greatest curse. The life self-devoid of it, lyric glow is a mere process of combustion, and devoid of it, the long years of life are like the years of a snake, says Guru Nanak Dev in Todi Mahalla, Volume 2. Kinship through ages. Bhai Gurdas, great poet of spiritual experience, traces in his odes to the spirit of discipleship, note, spirit of the Sikh or disciple, a continuous kinship that runs through the ages. The disciples of all ages, he says, are bound in an indissoluble spiritual comradeship. He sings how Rani Tara, leaving her bed by the side of her husband each night, used to go to the Guru's Satsangat, Holy Communion, and her husband Harish Chandra knew not where his Rani went at night, leaving him asleep. Bhai Gurdas says he went to heaven and heard the word of the Guru, and following her, her husband too heard the word of the Guru. There is one word and one Guru in all ages. He was Guru Nanak then, it is Guru Nanak now, and it shall be Guru Nanak hereafter. He sings of discipleship as a great cosmic process of the moral sublimation of life itself. Metaphysically speaking, of God Himself. Starting from the smallest cold of clay to the highest Buddhahood, Godhood. It is the Guru that makes God manifest. It is the God come in person, come to us as man, that starts the new life in us. The knowledge. All is Brahma, is useless, worthless, without meeting Him. So preaches the great Churala of ancient India to her husband, Yog Vashishta. Note, this is a philosophical work of Indian mysticism in the form of a myth. And here Bhai Gurdas also proclaims that without meeting the Guru in person, there is no divine knowledge anywhere. Dhruv won it by intense love of him. He saw God. God came and met him as the mother cow meets her calf, and made of him a star of heaven round which the sacred seven revolve in worship. God as person comes to the rescue of His own devotees. They cast Him in fire, they threw Him in water. One burnt Him not, the other drowned Him not. The Guru favoured Prahlad, the Bhakt was unharmed. Hiranyakashipu took up the sword and asked Prahlad, "Where is thy Guru, God?" Out of the red-hot pillar of iron came the friend of Prahlad, and the evil one was destroyed. Based on Var 10, Cantos 1 and 2. Draupadi is about to be disgraced in the court of the Kuru king. They intend to strip her bare in open court. She closes her eyes, calls for help to her god, Krishna, and fixes her dhyanam on him. Krishna saves her honor and appears before her in vision, and she bends her head before him bashfully and says, "Yes, you saved me, my God. From beginnings of things, such is the way of God. He sides with those who have no one to side with them." Var 10:8. Sudama goes to Dwarka to meet Krishna, doubting if ever a king would receive a poor man like him. Seeing the poor old friend of his boyhood, Krishna leaves his high seat on the throne. Aye, God Himself comes out to receive His devoted poor Bhakt. Krishna goes round Sudama as if round a sacred temple of God, and then touches his rugged feet and embraces him. He washes his feet and gives him his own throne for a seat. Var 10:9. Jayadev is lost in love and forgets to write his Gita Govinda. God himself comes and writes what he could not express. Namdev offers him the spotted cow's milk and insists that his God should come and drink, and God came and partook of his devotee's offering. The beautiful umbrella of honor was spread over the head of Nama, and great was his glory of love. Var 10:10. Ramanand is on his way to Ganga for his early morning bath, and a Musalman weaver lies dead with thirst for God on the way. His foot touches Kabir, and Ramanand says, "Rise, utter Ram," and thus was Kabir inspired. Var 10:14. Ajamal, a sinner, a reveler in sense pleasures, who turned his back on God and man, after a whole life of transient pleasure and selfishness, seeks the Guru. The Guru enunciates to him the word that clears up his doubts, and he rises up, chastened, feeling divine. Thus does he save a sinner. Var 10:20. The above are free renderings from the Vars or Odes of Bhai Gurdas. The Naam, meditating on whom the Ganika swam the sea of illusion. That Naam, that is my support. Guru Tegh Bahadur in the measure Maru. I gather here a few personal chants to the spirit of inspiration in its newest and freshest manifestation in Sikh history and the life both of the individual and community as dreamt and actually created in the Punjab by the holy Gurus. I believe that discipleship, Sikhi, is inspiration of divine knowledge through the culture of the feeling for beauty and through its manifestations in human art and labor. It is more subjective state of mind than an outward action or ritual. Those who do not slowly and resolutely imbibe the deep culture of self-realization and do not cultivate the feeling of oneness with God and His humanity are blind of heart and withered and palsied of soul. Guru Arjan Dev says, "If one has plenty of delectable foods, delightful things to drink, and all manners of pleasures, his whole life is like a dead corpse decorated." Gaudi. When the wealth of the peace of his love is found, all other wealth of land and elephants and hawks and gems and jewels are as dust. Gosai Tulsidas. Note, the famous author of Ramayana in Awadhi Hindi, which is held as a sacred book by millions. Blessed, blessed is the very Chandala, whose poor heart is the temple of Gopala. Guru Granth. The Sikh by Muhammad Shafi. Worshipper of the Beautiful. Please note, this is a typical Muslim name and represents the reaction of his class to the teaching of the Gurus. Worshipper of the Beautiful. To me, the word Sikh conveys a deep spiritual meaning. It is the man in man, he who has longed for ages for the realization of his destiny and the knowledge of the self. The humanity that has worshipped God under many names and forms, at the dawn of time it rang its bell, and at the great dusk it shall light its taper of mind at his altar, still to worship and to adore the life-giver, the saints. This word is used here with particular reference to men who are reborn of the spirit of the Guru now, or were once twice born. Note, reference to the Hindu nation of the twice born. Here the meaning is spiritual rebirth. In the near past in Punjab, men of cosmic consciousness, angels, gods whose bodies are mere vehicles of the spirit, presences singing glory, glory, and flooding both landscape and the face of man with the living image of their vision. Men of all races and ages and climes and colors, men of all religions with their own religion, however always distinct and new extraordinary men with the revelation of heaven on their own brows. The morning breaks, the bird sings, his saint glow in various wondrous colors. Guru Granth, Gauri Ki War, Volume 6. The word burns like stars day and night in their eyes. Guru Gobind Singh creates his Naam-dyed commune of saints, the Khalsa, the brotherhood exalted in their noble humanity. The absolute purity of his ideal of man is measured by the failure of men to be what he wishes them to be, and yet unknown men are to man the disciple, to the Sikh like broken crystals with edges gone, angles deranged, and the sides lopped off, but crystals yet. There in the Sikh is the man in all men. She worshipper waits at the shrine of heavenly beauty. Guru Gobind Singh's chant of the perfect man is glorious. It is intense, life-giving. His word is charmed. Association with its feeling puts one in touch with the invisible sources of life. The hymns of Guru Granth sink deep into the soul of man, and the word burns like stars day and night in the eyes of Guru's disciples. The awe-inspiring scenes of the Akalis, note, reference to the Akali movement of Punjab, in which the Sikhs have been demanding the control of all their religious places to be in their own hands. The awe-inspiring scenes of the Akalis in their present somewhat confused struggle, however misled and misguided from certain points of view, courting death like moths, the Sikh women coming and garlanding their husbands before the Akal Takht to go and bare their breasts to bullet if need be. In the name of the Guru, mothers and fathers putting with their own hands the flaming crown of martyrdom on their young son's head and praying that the Guru may grant them the honor of death in his name. People laying themselves down on railroads before the rushing railway engines, carrying a train full of their brethren as prisoners, as an appeal for stopping the train to let them who are out of prison to feast those who are going in. Thousands dressed in yellow and black, vying with each other to be the first to form the groups of 500 or 1,000 martyrs that are sent to face prison, torture, and even death in the name of the Guru, and the universal diffusion of this one feeling of service and sacrifice throughout the Sikh masses. These make one wonder if one is living in an age of rank materialism as the present one, or in the age when, under the direct inspiration of the 10th Guru, the Sikhs were taking vows of absolute self-surrender to the ideals of Khalsa. Here is a new race created by the Guru with the spirit of fire and iron and death, which makes them immortal even in death. Every page of Sikh history burns with 100 star-like names. One name is enough to thrill a whole life in us with the noblest spirit of heroism. The names of Guru Arjan Dev, Guru Tegh Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh, his 4 sons, the 5 beloved disciples, and of the Sikh martyrs and devotees, the heroes of war and peace, provide the Sikh with an inexhaustible and intense past which few races in history can provide in its life-giving, death-defying powers of inspiration to serve the Master and his ideals. The other day, an Akali of the old type who came of the Hindus of Bihar showed how the Sikh tradition could inspire life and change the outlook of man. He wore a chakra, sharp-edged disc on his head, a kirpan, and a quiver on his waist, and held a battle axe in his hand. He walked as if the whole earth was his. He had the proud gait of a veritable conqueror. One should see that this one man had the presence of 1,000. One could see that this one man had the presence of 1,000. There was the Guru's steel in his veins and a thunder in his voice. If one of us read the song of the 10th Guru without that iron in his accents, he would tell us, this chant is not for the weak and the timid. It is the bowman's bow. Everyone cannot string it up and shoot arrows about. In the Guru's words, there is a holy war. The axes strike, the swords clash, the arrows fly, destroying the ghost of darkness. These words of his give a new glimpse of the fire of life that tingled in his blood, a new tradition that occupied his mind. He was quite different from those around him, the weak, superstitious, fear-consumed people who in their ritual observance had never known the spirit of heroism. A philosopher told me it so appears that the Sikh religion in a generation or so works right up to the bone of a man. The other day I saw a fine village boy in Bihar, young, rosy and strong. If left to his youth, I believed he would have been quite a self-intoxicated lad, fit for something great. As he passed me by, he said, Jai Prayag Ji ki, victory to Prayag or Hail Prayag. Note, Prayag, the sacred spot near Allahabad in UP, where the holy Ganga and Jamuna make confluence with the equally holy though invisible Saraswati. It made me reflect, what inspiration could at all be there in these words for such a youth? If he were to be only a knight-errant, his lady love would infuse more life into him than a mere dead remembrance in this listless way of the two rivers meeting at a place called Prayag. Comparatively, even in these days, a Sikh child is wholly inflammable, like a heap of gunpowder, when touched by the names of his holy ancestors. The Song of the Sikh by Prema Singh. Note, like the rest of the authors named, this too is imaginary and symbolic. A long-tressed camel driver. Ah, well, let my hair grow long. Note, Kipling in his Kim says, let their hair grow long and talk Punjabi, that is all that makes a Sikh. Ah, well, let my hair grow long, and long the chant of the Guru's song, and let my breath burn with his Naam, and if I sing, I am the brother of man, silent craftsman that builds a Sikh out of clay, thy disciple I love to be. My clay is not yet shaped so well, my ray has not yet its sway of love, yet I am brother of man, a slave who merged in the master, a slave and the master in the slave. My body is his temple and mansion, a poor mud house, yet a temple and a kingdom. Thy disciple I love to be. I cannot forget the knot he tied on my head. It is sacred, it is his mark of remembrance. The Master has bathed me in the light of suns not yet seen. There is eternity bound in this tender, fragile knot. I touch the sky when I touch my hair, and 1,000 stars twinkle through the night. Thy disciple I love to be. Under my simple rustic appearance beats my heart, warm to the whole human race. It quivers for all glows, hopes. It burns, it glows, it hopes. This heart is vast to enfold all creation. It is the soul of creation's mystery. The forest and rivers are images of me, and the very snowy peaks have my grey locks of age. Thy disciple I love to be. Who says the hair is no more than grass? The human bones but pieces of lime? Yet a single hair is a dear remembrance, an heirloom, a trust, a pledge, a love, a vow, an inspiration. My form is but a statue, a dumb gratitude for the knot of friendship tied by those kings of eternity, the Gurus who came to the Punjab, the saviors who were gracious to love me and made me a home in the realm of eternal beauty. There yonder, I know I shall go there to them, to those far-off mansions of the kings of love, and there new robes wait for me, an immortal love, thy disciple I love to be. The Sikh Symbolism by Ghiyasuddin. Note: on supposed authorship, see note on the foregoing. When personal love for Jesus Christ ebbed away from Europe and mere Christian principles took hold of the minds of his disciples, the creative and true feeling of discipleship ended, and the long flowing locks of Christ worn by a few devoted saints, Jesus images, went out of fashion. The symbolism born of the fire of human feeling, be it a kiss, or a wound, or a lock of hair, a ring, a tree, is an index of the intensity of life. The traditional form of Christ is the seal on his word. Both go together. Think one way, the other becomes lifeless. So is it with the Sikhs. Guru Gobind Singh. Worship of the word. After all, it may be said, there is a good deal of symbolism with the Sikh. He has the golden temple, the Akal Takht, his worship of relics similar to the Buddhists, his worship of the book, his submission to the authority of his unique church like that of the Vatican, and 100 other symbols and traditions. True. And all this shows that there is a genuine religious feeling, for whenever there has been a genuine feeling, it clothes itself in similar forms. Symbolism is dead if the feeling is absent, and if feeling is there, it cannot live without creating its own clay. To think of a genuine religious feeling without its cherished symbolism is to think of a soul without a body. Dead symbolism, however, hugs the pictures of other people, loves, and as such is empty self-deception. It is the glorification of a corpse in the words of Guru Arjan Dev. But to pretend to rise above portrait worship and above the affection of love letters from one's beloved, and above the worship of relics and memories, and yet to claim at the same time to have a feeling burning within one's bosom, is a peculiar freak of dead puritanism which is equally lifeless and vain. Note: this insight should be carefully understood and its meaning sought for in one's experience. It is a personal love for the Guru who has fascinated our soul with his life, his endeavor, and love for us that gives to us the breath of life. Such dedication is our faith. There is deep solace for us repeating the name. Our cherished sentiments and even superstitions, however crude and primitive seemingly from the viewpoint of shallow, faithless rationalism or of a dry academic metaphysics about God and man, have all the same an essential bearing on the fervent continuation of our life-giving traditions in the society and the individual. The sentiments and symbols of a living faith are the artistic forms of its highest poetry. My bosom throbs. The other day, a God-intoxicated Sikh went along muttering a prayer between his lips. I put my ear to his bosom and heard his heartbeat. I have come away now. My bosom throbs. The Guru has called me to the service of Khalsa. I am offering my heart's blood. Only a few drops they are, for mixing it with the cement with which one more marble slab is to be laid today on the floor of our Hari Mandir. Note: the original name of the famous Golden Temple at Amritsar. For mixing it with the cement with which one more marble slab is to be laid today on the floor of our Hari Mandir. Ah, why do not my brothers accept my prayers? Why do they not bless me thus? Ah, why don't they accept it at once? Baptism of fire. The baptism of fire and steel inaugurated by Guru Gobind Singh is the inspiration that remolds man to a new faith and a new death in love. It is emancipation by the touch of the adepts. Note: these are the Panj Pyare, symbolized by 5 devoted Sikhs who administer Amrit or the baptism of immortality or of the sword to the initiate. It is emancipation by the touch of the adepts who have the Guru's authority to give the gift of personality. It is the miracle of man-making, angel-making by a divine touch. Come, let us not despair. We too go out and seek the emancipated ones, those whom God has favored with his own gift of love. Perchance we may find them and attain liberation from misery of illusions of duality. The Master stands by me. I wish to hear again a form from those holiest of the holy lips of Guru Arjan Dev himself, as did once my forefathers in the Punjab. I panted for it. I thirsted for it. I cried like a child. I wished to see him, the sweetest minstrel of divine love, who lived with us once and spoke to us with the sweetness that no one has since been capable of bestowing on us. Would he meet me? Where is he gone? Where dwells he now? Messengers robed in the white flames came in and took me into a little bright, fragrant, sweet retreat in my own house. There was the treasure of his song. Note, refers to the Guru Granth Sahib, scripture of the Sikh faith. There was the treasure of his songs. I fell down speechless at the feet of the song, at the feet of his disciple. Note, the reference is likely to be to Bhai Gurdas. I fell down speechless at the feet of the song, at the feet of his disciple who had given me that treasure and also the zest in my soul for its pure light and feet of the Master. The white-robed messengers lifted me up and these angels made me sit by the treasure of song. I felt at that entranced, blessed time that I was sitting by the side of Master himself. The angels sat in me and opened the book of songs and they read and I listened. I felt Guru Arjan Dev came in response to me as he had blessed my ancestors of the Punjab. So is he still with me. I felt deeply comforted. His disciples by Topanmal, Dayaram and their brethren. A karwa of Sindhis to the city of joy. Note, Anandpur in the present-day Rupar, since named Roopnagar, district of the Punjab, is the city of joy. Here Guru Gobind Singh resided for a number of years, and here it was that in 1699 he administered the baptism of Amrit and created the order of the Khalsa. They say on an auspicious day, at an auspicious moment, a raindrop falls from heaven and the mother of pearl floats on the sea's surface, waiting and thirsting for this sacred drop. And as it falls, she goes down with it to bottom where in death-like silence and repose she dreams a pearl. They say the pearl is the creation of Samadhi, gathering up the state of complete absorption in the Absolute. But, says Gurbani, the soul of man doth close after taking the seed of name from the Guru, and sink deep into silence, thenceforward, moving as the winds may move him. Though over his head roll the thundering oceans, he lies love-immersed, all closed in joy of his faith, till the word of God comes forth as the new form of the disciple. This disciple is more than a pearl, more than a gem, more than all the scriptures old and new. He is the seed of life that creates life afresh. He is the disciple in whose soul God himself blossoms forth in his own perfect beauty. When I wish to see the Guru, I see the Master, and both look so wonderfully alike. So strike fear in naught, nor are we afraid of aught. The Master has made us simple, strong, heroic and true. We sing the hymns of the pure and learn to die bravely. As the infant loves the mother's lap, so we love the presence of God. We do nothing for ourselves, our God does everything for us. On wings of inspiration, we rise over all to the unknown heights of pure thought. We go like birds, tasting fruits, swinging in from air from bough to bough. Doing the will of our beloved is the highest fulfillment of our life. What he wills, our highest good. The Guru's path is known as the path of birds. Each one must cut his own fight in the trackless blue by his own wings. We do not know how to tell others what is our inmost exaltation. On the roadside we sit, and all our life we distribute our joy in red earthen bowls. Our holy temple is the song of the Guru, and it never forsakes us. Out of our beloved's bow issues a singing shower of his gold-tipped arrows, and yonder lies whole cities pierced with his light, tasting for the first time since their birth the wounds of love. Note: hereafter the short verse pieces become wholly of the author's creation. We are as old, as new as the opening flowers of just this hour. We have nothing to tell anybody except only that the Master has made us all so beautiful, and he has made us all infinite by his love. He has given us the rapture of life by the touch of his feet, and we know now that there is no other way to obtain it. The good people living beyond the door of death come and meet us like the figures of the strange music of heaven. We are in touch with many things which we do not know. Our life is a series of miracles, and yet it is so simple. All virtue is fragments of our love, and stars are of light. Wisdom comes to us through his grace spontaneously as speech comes to the infant. We cannot express what we feel. All those who wish to know us must see our beloved. Our religion is to labor and to love and to see our God everywhere and in everything. We live brimful of him. Our life is in the dhyanam, the imaging of him in our soul, of our beloved. We die when of this deprived. Are not whole races enslaved by others? By first ruining the dhyanam of the former. We are the alabaster vases in which the Master has with its own hand planted the tender fiber of the light of soul, and the fibers grow into trees of light. Their light by its glowing up and paling down produces pictures of the spiritual effects of man, things and events which signal to us when we act right and when wrong. We are consistent only with the impression recorded by this light in our soul, and we are faithful only to the light of the Guru's lamp burning within us. In this trackless sea of life, we follow the rays of light emanating from the Guru's word. Our God is seated on the lotus petals of our heart. The gleams from the Guru's lamp make us omniscient. By it we know what is right. No outside dictates are of any use to us. Our ethics are of the harmony that flows from his lips. Our joy from the white blossoms of light in us in the final guide of our ship is the final guide of our ship. This joy comes not from what the world has to offer, but from within ourselves. What a magic light! Sometimes a rain of sparks fall on us from it, as it quivers and shakes like a living thing, and at another, when we are fast asleep, it rains honey dew on us. We live in its shade, we know its flesh language from ancient times. We understand this love signal which no one else can see. All is kind, even death. We know it all definitely now by the knowledge that comes to us from him. We have been with this truth for ages, and yet it still has an endless wonder and surprise for us every moment. It assumes innumerable new shapes. The self-same vision carries in itself the myriad reflections of the soul. Sometimes I feel happy in the dust of a poor man's cottage, at others I feel cursed by rich raiment. Dainty dishes have tasted to me bitter, but a dry crust and water tasted like amrit when offered in love. I condemn nothing, I renounce nothing. All comes so naturally and in its own time to me. Without eyes have I more than those that have eyes. Note: this perhaps subconscious memory of Shakespeare's King Lear as the blinded Earl of Gloucester reflects on the spiritual blindedness of those that have eyes yet see not. I need no renunciation as the Hindu saint urges on me. I believe in that renunciation which comes to me through the grace of my Guru, equally in the royal mansion and the straw hut. I believe in communion and contemplation, and as he irresistibly draws me to himself. I enter my soul's solitude as the long-maned pair of my green mares gallop in the air, and my chariot wheels fly in the sky. Let the heavenly winds carry me on their shoulders in all directions. Who can enshrine the word in him who is not rich enough to have the sun and moon to dust his floor? Braid in the star pearls from heaven in my tresses, and drape me fine, for I am the Lord's bride. Note: the bride image for the devotee is well known in Indian devotional poetry. Just as a money changer, by running coins through his hands, can part the counterfeit from the genuine, so does the whole range of things pass through me, only the truth remains in my hands. We burn ourselves in his love and are made of the whole universe. For our wick and oil, when lighted as a flame, however tiny, are for God's temple service. Our Master says it our best service is when we contemplate him. To be beautiful is to be above the individual, the petty. Beauty is goodness too. Did the Master Guru Nanak sing of the beautiful tresses, lovely people and sweet breath of the divine beloved? Note: Vadhans Mahalla Pehla Chhant. He is our way and our destination. The Disciple Spirit by Saint Shah Belol of Iran. Shah Belol, a Sufi of Baghdad, is believed to have received spiritual guidance from Guru Nanak as he visited his famous center of Islamic culture. Note: this too is imaginary author as in the other pieces. A flower in the dust. I am the flower plucked by him. You touched me, I trembled. You called me, I came. You raised me, I feared to lose your touch. You laid me on your breast, I died with joy of it. You dropped me, I fell. My wings broke, my clothes torn. The evening dust trampled me down, but the scent of your touch abides, and I still bear your perfume. I am the dew on the grass waiting for thee. I am as the dew on the grass waiting for thee, my son. Turned am I into eyes, eyes looking out for thee, my love. My empty eyes are as tears, they thirst for thee. My bones have melted, melted, love. Without thee I am tears, tears, tears. Come, love, from behind the skies, and gather me in thy glistening arms. I am as dew on the grass, waiting for thee, my son. By Bhai Veer Singh, translated from Punjabi. Note: Bhai Veer Singh, the author's mentor, the greatest man of letters in Punjab of the modern times. He lived from 1872 to 1957. Winds and waves obey him. But as they smiled, he fell asleep, and there came a storm of wind on the lake. And they were filled with water, and they were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. Then he rose and rebuked the wind and raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was calm. And he said unto them, Where is your faith? And they, being afraid, wondered, saying one to another, What manner of man is this? For he commandeth even the winds and waters, and they obey him. Love washes sins. Note: in this section, the pieces move, of course, around the holy life of Jesus the Christ. And he turned to the woman and said to Simon, See thou this woman? I entered into thy house, thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she hath washed my feet with tears and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but the woman since the time I came in hath not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but the woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved me much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. I will add a link to the story around which these lines are written. So it's a very good read. Please go through it so you can understand the above part in more detail. Worship of God is the best service. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, Why trouble ye the woman, for she hath wrought a good work upon me? For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. Being God is the best service. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part which shall not be taken away from her. Faith is best conduct. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. How much are ye better than fowls? Consider the lilies how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory not arrayed like one of these. If God so clothes the grass which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? Holding the stars in the folds of his robe, and the orbs in his sleeves, yonder cometh he, mother. Note, as pointed out earlier, in Indian devotional poetry, the yearning spirit is imaged as the devoted female. The admired, beloved in this piece is obviously Guru Nanak. Holding stars in the folds of his robe, and the orbs in his sleeves, yonder cometh he, mother, the dealer in gems, and he has those red life crystals, and unnoticed he goes. He sells the red gleams. He sleeps on bare earth, mother, and his tresses are long and black. O his self-incarnadine eyes, and unnoticed he goes, the prince of love, mother. On reading an Arabic inscription in a shrine outside the town of Baghdad, dated 912 Hegira. Note, this is the year in which Guru Nanak is believed to have visited Baghdad. According to the Christian era, this should be 1507-8. Upon this simple slab of granite didst thou sit, discoursing of fraternal love and holy light, O Guru Nanak, Prince among India's holy sons. What song from the source of the seven waters thou didst sing to charm the soul of Iran? Note, on his return, joining Guru Nanak, travelled to India through Iran, Afghanistan, and the tribal areas to the northwest of India. What song from the source of seven waters thou didst sing to charm the soul of Iran? What peace from Himalaya's lonely caves and forests thou didst carry to the vine groves and rose gardens of Baghdad? What light from Badrinath's snowy peaks thou didst bear to illuminate the heart of Balol? Note, here Behlol is implied. Thy saintly Persian disciple. 8 fortnights Balol hearkened to thy words on life and the path and spring eternal. While the moon waxed and wanted in the pomegranate grove beside the grassy desert of the dead, and after thou hadst left him to return to thy beloved Bharat land, the fakir. Note, Behlol is implied. The fakir, it is said, would speak to none nor listen to the voice of man or angel. His fame spread far and wide. The Shah came to pay him homage, but the holy man would take no earthly treasure nor hear the praise of kings and courtiers. Thus lived lonely, devoted, thoughtful, for 60 winters, sitting before the stone whereon thy sacred feet had rested. And ere he left this house for ignorance, he wrote these words upon the stone. Here spake the Hindu Guru Nanak to Fakir Balol, and for these 60 winters, since the Guru left Iran, the soul of Balol has rested on the Master's word, like a bee poised on downlit honey rose. Anand Acharya in Snowbirds. Silence seals the lips of the disciple. He has found happiness in himself. Nothing else matters. His life is consecration to the beloved, unquestioning obedience to his will, waiting for the best wisdom to ripen when it ripens. The disciple's heart is a sharp that shivers within music of being, touched by his winds, his water, his light, his flowers, his beauty in creation and its variety of color. Day and night the disciple suffers from the illness of love, aching for what it knows not. Pain has lost for him its anguish and pleasure its excitement. Calm like Bodhisattva, but excited like a new-blown flower swimming in the light floods of the dawn. Humanity is in giving away, and the disciple is he who gives himself away. Life is identified with distribution, and death with conservation. The disciple recks not. So abundant is the gift of the giver genius to him. He distributes his ripened life and love and labor unconditionally to man, bird, and beast. He is the symbol of God. He represents God and so must be like God. Feeding all, giving light to all, sustaining life, illumining the breath of man with the inspiration of Nam. Note: Nam or name is the mystic term in Indian religious thought symbolizing the divine essence in manifestation. There are natural emanations of goodness, forgiveness, and freedom from the masks of worldliness. The disciple's presence is enough revelation of the moral beauty of the universe. Truly humane, he is the best of men. His religion is that of the sun, the rivers, the snows, blessing all by his very sight. His creed is love, not that egoist desire that confronts itself in the luxury of thrones, basks in the sheen of jewels, and feels well in deriving pleasure from certain objects and conditions. It is that mighty, awe-inspiring earnestness of soul that relieves its aching for the beloved, in feeling the sharp edges of the sword and the dagger, and finds a cure for its pain in being blown up to pieces before the muzzles of guns directed to destroy his faith and uproot his fraternity. Bullets of lead cool his heart if it be for the sake of the Master. It is love that seeks its fulfillment in death, dissolution, and ruin if need be. He who loses his life gains it. Love that is the insane passion in its idealism, for it there is peace in kissing the poison touched by lips of the beloved, and for it is agony to breathe without him. Misery is where he is not. Without love, life is a dreary emptiness. The disciple is soul-strung, vision vibrated. He sees what no one else sees. In history, he is those few who are misunderstood for their celestial inspiration, their flowing goodness, their crystalline purity, their fearless humanity. But martyrdom, however silent or passive, is the lifeblood of races and nations. Man would die if there were no sky and stars, and he would die sooner if there were no men imbued with goodness and holiness. That is dharma. God-men, the true disciples. Note: disciple is the English equivalent of Sikh. The true Sikh or disciple is the man in whom human nature takes the ideal form. The true disciples are equally distributed in different races, clans, and ages of human history. The disciple is of the chosen of God. God is at his back, and his fearlessness and recklessness is always balanced well in his vision of everlasting truth. The mighty rulers are mere toys of time, but time itself halts and kisses the feet of the disciples. Their spirit triumphs over the savage nature of man and beast and makes it sweet. The disciple is mother spirit in the animal, the flower spirit in the vegetable, the human spirit in man. The disciples' race, as proclaimed by the Buddha, is the race of gods. O king, replied the Buddha, thy descent is in the succession of the kings, but mine is in the succession of the Buddhas. No nation, no sect can claim exclusively the disciple, for they are the gifts of heaven to earth and are scattered all over like jewels in the dust, like stars in the universal darkness. They are the wayside shelters that afford protection to the traveler at night. They are as trees which lend their branches for nest making to the birds, holes to creatures of the earth, shades to the sun-beaten travelers, and which themselves sing with their myriad leaf-clapping the songs that the winds pour into their souls. True discipleship, as Bhai Veer Singh put it so pithily, is kirat karni, naam japna, vand chakna. Kirat karni, to toil for one's bread, for goodness, for love of man, for God in the spirit of devotion. This is kirat or work inspired by the spirit of holiness. Feeling him in us, about us, to keep our hands and limbs and mind employed fixedly in laboring of the good, in gathering bread for hungry mouths, providing solace to the sick, clothes to the naked, and making the burden of suffering light for humanity by completely losing our individual selfishness, such is kirat karni. Naam japna. Being good, or the attainment of simple and pure goodness, if for man as spontaneous as for birds to fly. To be of God and of his love, being capable of active divinity in inspirational touch with the inviolable divine spirit, is Naam Japna, repeating his name. Mere repetition may be death, though repetition is also life. Simran, or remembrance, is love in action. Note: Simran comes from samarna, remembrance, implied sense or meditation. Simran or remembrance is love in action, and his name is he himself. The word is God. With the word on our tongue, God is in our voice. With the word in our soul, God is in our soul. We may thus find the infinite in man and the man in infinite. There is no union anywhere but in God, and God is inaccessible, unknowable, forever unknown, a stranger, an alien, unless the disciple has got him in his love embrace as the word, as the lyrical words ringing in his soul. All poetry and scriptures of man are shadows of this sublime state of inspiration of man by the Holy Ghost, the Word of God. Without this Holy Ghost coming and filling us, there can be no sprouting of the life of the Spirit in man. It is inspiration from the visible world of saviors of man. Note: these are, of course, the holy teachers of mankind. Simran of some kind no one can escape. If it is not the face of God that one recalls and remembers, it will be the face of woman, of man, a friend, an object, some desire, ambition, even lust, and greed that man shall have to remember and repeat to himself. If not God, the spirits of evil shall fill him. If not the Holy Ghost, then some ghosts of darkness shall possess him. So, Simran of God, of the Guru, is the highest state of love. Simran is in the heartbeats of the mother tiger, the mother doe, the mother sparrow, and the mother of man. Simran is the law of love. It is the holy manifestation of God in the matrix of matter. It is what makes the monotony of repetition of day and night, of love and longing, so fascinating. Remembrance of him, says Guru Nanak, is what gives true life. Rehras. Simran is the true builder, the slow, silent architect of the soul. Vand Chakna, to share our bread and joy and attainments of God realization with all, to give a feast of our flesh and blood, to be Christ's, Buddha's, Gurus, not men only, above humanity living outside our bodies, in touch with superhumanity of the higher worlds. The sermon of political economy is expression of the estrangement of man from man, systematized, justified, and perpetuated. The wickedness of human nature, which is only an accidental excrescence, must be forgotten forever. In the laws, in literature, in the press, no one should remind us of it. Let us drive the animal out by self-sacrifice. Let us all cease to be mere individual, so that the kingdom of righteousness arrives, making ourselves universal. The ideal of discipleship is the reverse of these political hypocrisies and rabid fallacies of political economy. There is no political economy in the kingdom of love. The father of the family strives to feed his children. In love, it is to seek no kingdom for itself. It is to confer kingdoms on the poorest. It is to rob no one. Robbing others is what constitutes the art of empire founding. Conserving wealth for oneself is to make many die of hunger. It is a life distribution and not of possessions that the Guru presents to humanity. It is a life distribution and not of possession that Guru presents to humanity. Hoarding is vice. Eating by the sweat of one's brow is virtue. Living and letting others live in reasonable enjoyment of each one's own individual life of home and country is what Guru thinks should be the principal tendency of man's rule over his fellow men. The calamities not of our own making are enough to contend with. Let moral governments aid man in making his life successful. The moral law alone, and not the stuffed law, justified by crooked logic, based on the animal selfishness of man, is recognized by the Guru. The administration of human affairs is comprehended by the Guru in Vand Chakna. Share thy bread, O disciple, and live. The laws of all nations should be under the inspiration of this truth. Shame on man and his empires and the governments thereof, if they have not succeeded so far that no woman, no one's liberty of body, mind, and soul be interfered with, to let the hampered person develop towards inner self-sovereignty that may confer on him joy. Self-sovereignty is the goal of the true culture of man and the state. Out of matter are created new souls by God. The divine singer throws them up like new suns from the nebula. His touch makes the face of creation immortal. Reck not poverty and suffering if the mind be rich and truly cultured. Mind not your poor accomplishments if the soul be drunk with the inebriation of self-sovereignty. Better be beasts of jungle than these men with religions of differences and duality. Better have no tongues, if tongues are to be employed to name God in vain and to inflame the fires of animal passion. It is better to die on the battlefield than to live full of hatred for one another. Better total annihilation than enslavement of body and mind even for an instant. Bequeath to your children the kingdom of freedom and its rapture only, not the sickness of the sense of property. The best law is of love. The best service is of labor in love. The best thought is of the emancipation of man. The best justice from man to man is unselfishness. The best manners are incessant giving of the self away and incessant forgiving. The best ethics is melting away into love of ideal beauty. Your surplus belongs to anyone who may need it. True union is in feeling in the soul, neither in the mind nor in the body. The world is an inn on the road to perfection. Knowledge is not so covetable a property for a true man as a flame in his heart which might consume the dross of his self. All friendships take place here in one little point where our souls touch and come in contact with each other. Do not try embrace the whole circumference. That one shining point is of great reality of things. Culture of the inner self by hearing the voice of the unheard from the unseen worlds from where inspiration come is true humanity. Alchemy of the personality by the sisters of song gathered on the river Ravi of the Punjab. Note: on this river is situated the city of Lahore, capital formerly of all Punjab and now of that part of it gone to Pakistan. Along the bank of this river also elsewhere settled down Guru Nanak in his last years. Sacred memories. The Vedanta philosophy makes out that name and form are illusion, but life clings to these illusions with a passion that never abates. In fact, in it swells its bosom with immortal faith in its everlastingness, and those who wish to get rid name and form lose life itself. The great groups of men or races live by creating names and forms, and there are some names that act like charms all along the generations. God may or may not be to them a reality, but their great men are, and the great men are the centers of the collective human culture of art, labor, and love. All life radiates from there. Though we suspect that behind these gods of ours there may be some great person, the great and sacred memories in human history rest after all on a few names. Dead generalizations. The present times through which we are passing tend towards impersonality. It is just as in war, when names and forms of men do not count. Only the act of killing is supreme. The home where little names and forms were held so dear, the mother clinging to the child, the wife to the husband, is fast disappearing. The hotel is replacing the home, and homely affections and attachments are giving place to legal arguments in favor of sex-based relation on a heartless economic basis, and to protect what is called the independence of the male and female. The world is suffering acutely from too much light. The mental forces of man are driving him towards vague, impersonal, and dead generalizations, both in religion, art, and society. The universities of Japan make their children into good Japanese, of America into good Americans. Oxford and Cambridge turn out Englishmen stamped with their own peculiar character and mold. These great national institutions of different nations breathe the power of ages. Centuries of dear associations of mind and heart are personalized in their very names. These places have been etherealized as the very souls of these different nations. Here the very matter by its hoariness has grown to be pure spirit. They are no more building and places, but visions and ideals. But men stamped with particular trademarks and dubbing as turned out by these national universities are only of significance. Modern civilization has not been able to capture genius from the sky in the net of its schools and systems. Its men are like its gold and silver, good only for one particular market. It strikes in its mints the current coins, which rapidly change hands as they pass. Negligible, paltry things. A rolling, roaring stream of common, stereotyped humanity rushing onward, covered with its own foam to nowhere, to no purpose. A modern hero wins the war, but soon after he is put out like the extinguished lamp, not wanted any longer. Engineers are pressed in by their own ideals and schemes, and all are soon lost like the little screws of a huge machine, immediately to be replaced by new ones. Few rise to the state of self-realization. Great scientists and experimentalists are mostly the facts and figures they have gathered. Busy thinking machines whose soul is buried deep out of sight in the heap. The web has made its own spider a helpless prisoner. Restlessness and impatience are characteristic of the modern life. Men have forgotten the man in themselves. They have no leisure to breathe calmly. They are running after the mirage of Maya. Genius is being drafted to tasks of mere utility. It is not allowed to traverse the path of self-realization. There is no doer visible. It is all work. Books and their contents make their authors famous for a while, rather than the books being made known through the names of their creators. What a vain flood of books rolls on now, in which the authors are drowned and blotted out. A whole divine culture in a name. There have been single, solitary, unknown men whose glance, a stray touch of a hand, a word spoken at the village well, a smile strewn on the footpath as they passed, made them the eternal guides of human race. The very name of the Buddha is more than all the Buddhistic scriptures. The chant, Buddha, Namo Buddha, is enough to fill our soul. Jesus is more precious than all the Christian Gospels written by the apostles. Muhammad strikes the empty world of Arabia with his own name. It still rings from the domes of the mosques the world over. Millions name him 5 times a day in namaz and bow down to God as he has commanded. Reading of the Quran is secondary, sweet only the faithful because it came from the Prophet. Krishna, the one name, is a whole religion. The Gita has significance because of the divine personality of Krishna. Naam, seen in inspired action in the history of man. We worship this intense process of capturing the perfected man in a name, and being thereby made perfect in an instant. In a name, we create a home for ourselves in the known invisible worlds of strangers beyond. Simran puts us in touch with our friends there, right from here. When the Buddha's yellow robe was donned by large parts of Asia, men burnt like orbs. The man shone. When out of the idol-worshipping barbarians of Arabia came forth the fresh Muslim life, when Guru Gobind Singh of the Punjab quite recently changed the low castes of the Punjab into the steel-clad, infinity-aspiring Khalsa, it was the intense cosmic process of Naam in its inspired action. Verily, however, it is not by any process even of Naam that man shines. When man shines, we find the process of Naam in solemn action as perfumed rice only when the rose is in bloom. So great is our devotion to the wonder of this transmuting touch that makes man shine, that we long for its inspiration for ages. Maybe in idle prayers, maybe in futile waiting of ages, in nameless superstitions, and indeed great is its miracle, worth all the sorrow of the emptiness of our life, because whenever that moment comes, centuries of inanity are forgotten. The common men realize perfection of genius. The least of them become in a twinkling of an eye the veritable kings of men and rise to the gift of prophecy. It descends on earth as the command of heaven in the person of great teachers like Guru Gobind Singh. Certainly, we have no power to control the process of the inflow of this inspiration into the heart of man. Guru Nanak calls it Simran, naming God. It is lyrical remembrance, the association in the name with the whole divine life of God. It is realization of His presence in a single name. Simran, or capturing the perfected man, the Buddha in a name, is not that dull, slow-footed, mechanically moving, piped with the listless repetition of muttering prayers and beads. Otherwise, the songs of the Guru himself would not pulsate with that oceanic heaving of the bosom of the Guru in love. It is the cry of the soul both in joy and in pain, which in its train makes millions alive with the throbs of the universal soul. Heaven itself is the power both of its voice and silence. It is the hymn of passion that glows like a star and the sight of beauty. It is the pure flame that eats the light of the suns and stars and kindles the eternal darkness. Virtue is absolute substance. Thundering anger, the thunderbolt and the trishul, the calm suffering, the cross and the poison cup, the infinite wildness of the newborn life, the soft glow of compassion, the holiness of self-sacrifice, the eternal peace, all are beauteous aspects of Simran. It transforms vice into absolute virtue. The strength held in the beesh in non-injury, ahimsa, and the gained clanging strength of battle shine as gems in the ring of the Guru, gems whose fire has the glow, but not the flame that burns. The ordinary standard of human judgments are suspended in the face of this divine phenomena. The genius of Simran, in its cosmic vastures, transcends all the petty measures of our relative ethics. The appearance of a prophet of God in a cosmic upheaval in the moral world. When genius really appears in the world, everything else becomes small and insignificant. Centuries of labor of the poor coral insects and their great coral islands are certainly negligible spaces when a new Himalaya shakes up his majestic head and rises supreme before the eyes of a world agape with wonder. Human personality shaking its lion mane. There is no cure for human suffering outside of man, as suffering is an inner ailment of the spirit. All joy is the health of the spirit. All outer conditions stand their oppressions. This inward strength comes from the regions of inspiration. Without this help coming from within, the outer world is the world of enemies. The stars and the sky combine to reduce man to an amorphous powder. Man is a dust flying after the chariot wheels of time unless he realizes himself and stands against the very elements and by his love tames them all, as he tames the wild animals to be his companions. Mere systems of education, the mere routine experience of life, the mere analysis of human nature and its undertakings do not impart this inner knowledge. Ethics too cast the human personality into a lifelong prison. Genius is truly the gift of heaven, and a true genius turns its gaze inward upon itself. This state of the life self-realization is akin to immortality in the flesh. We wait with bated breath for the coming of even a single man of such power, and when he comes, we give up our hearts and homes and follow him. "Follow me, and ye shall have everlasting life," he declares. With this great renunciation come to us, This apparent life and death of ours have thenceforward equal value. We then believe that there is a golden region beyond the ken of knowledge, where there is no pain of dual passion, no suffering of ignorance, no chaining in illusions, where the weary and heavy laden are truly comforted. There, only there, the right balance is struck, and no one is a loser. All are forgiven in the cosmic compassion, and everyone is made supremely felicitous within himself. The people of the East gather around him. Note, Jesus, of course, is implied. They hover around his word as moths around a lamp. The voice of this unique personality disturbs our soul with eternal joy. It is the personal contact with him that forms truly all our religion. Genius lighting genius as a burning lamp lights another. Note, this figure is typically Indian and has been used as the inspiration transmitted by Guru Nanak to his successors in the holy office of Guruship. We are not satisfied till we find one who can read our inmost desires and fulfill them both in waking and in dreams. Cure our sick children, bestow prosperity on us by giving it to us wrapped as his gift in a pinch of holy ashes from his sacrificial fire, and vouchsafe immortality to us by merely touching our forehead. We are not quite consoled with the grand idealism of the Sermon on the Mount till we meet in person one like Jesus, meeting with whom we know makes the great sermon a poem of our own emancipation. It is Jesus whose ordinary speech is the Sermon on the Mount. Where is he? Find him and live the sermon. Where is the man who makes the sermon alive? Ashrams and institutions and schools are in themselves lifeless symbols. Emancipated men are the real truths in the divine scheme of inner inspiration. Ramakrishna Paramhans lately gave Swami Vivekanand to the world. The latter left a scattering of ashrams in the style of modern civilization, which seemed to be but small pieces of his ochre robe, borne out of it by thorns of the wayside bushes, as he passed through them looking at the figure of his master in the sky. And there they were caught by thorns, a few orange robe rags fluttering in the wind to no purpose. And so the disciples created by the Sikh gurus once were freedmen whose genius sparkled with the beauty of self-realization, but nobody again gave to anyone what Nangta Bava of Ambala gave to Paramhans Ramakrishna. Note, see The Master as I Saw Him by Sister Nivedita. As birds roost for the night of any wayside tree, so does the Sikh on this earth in his pilgrimage to immortality of love makes any branch his home. The earth is small, but the sky of his vision is wide, and the great Guru has given him wings. The very sparrows fly with the power of the hawk that is seen perching on the right thumb of the Guru. Note, Guru Gobind Singh is figured with a white hawk perched on his thumb, a picture that has inspired the heroism and chivalry of the Punjab. The disciples ride, wear swords, and dress and march like conquerors and kings, but they are all made so by singing glory, glory. Note, an implied rendering of the Sikh name of God, Vaheguru or Hail Lord. The disciples ride, wear swords, and dress and march like conquerors and kings, but they are all made so by singing glory, glory by a rebirth in the song of the Guru, and each one is a man made infinite by the inner freedom of self-realization. Every one of the Guru's Sikh is a genius of power, love and service, and the genius was once given as a gift by the Guru to the poor ploughman, wood choppers, brewers and other humble folk of the Punjab. We till now have a proverb in our language that the very dogs of the Guru could work miracles. Our daily life became a series of miracles. Miracles are nothing extraordinary. Extraordinary is the inspiration of peace. Be inspired yourself, and all life is a series of miracles. Little men became great leaders of mighty revolutions. All miracles wrought in the Khalsa history, both in war and peace, are simple acts of the Guru-inspired man. The new chants that the Guru poured out of his soul vitalized man with the whole power of righteousness. The Singh or lion, now a somewhat monotonous ending of a Sikh name, was once a metaphorical expression of the great moral prowess of the Guru's soul force. The sword was the symbol of this moral process. The 10th Guru called God by the name of the sword Bhagauti, and nothing in this world can symbolize the intense flame of the life so truly as the sparkle of the sword blade. One woman-born man comes and touches a whole people with the spark of his genius and raises them at once to be supermen. Heaven vibrates in the voice of grass cutters. Learning sits at the feet of the unlettered men of despised caste origins who were exalted to sainthood by the Master. Only seeking to be submerged in the great depths of truth that shone once in the Guru-lit Naam encaptured eyes of the disciples of the Guru. Genius comes down to earth from its hidden heights wherever might be its natural home and breathes in the features of common men. Akalis were veritable god-men whom neither steel cuts nor fire burns. They were spirits. Their bodies were but the shadows of a forgotten past, and in these bodies, mere shadows moving on the mounds of Anandpur, the future type of a completed man, faintly glimmered with the universal hopes. The Prophet sees what no one else can. Guru Gobind Singh is riding on his splendid bay steed. By him rides in attendance the chief Dalla, when in a dreamy abandon of blessing his apostle, the Guru said, Dalla, see the water running in channels all over the country. Behold the crops waving green and beautiful. Dalla, not knowing the strangeness of the prophecy, replied in the humdrum accent of ignorance of his own little life, Sire, the land is all arid, only the dust flies. But the Guru said again, Dalla, see the trees laden with fruits, see the country rich with golden harvests of the ripened corn. Dalla again replied foolishly, Sire, the country is all arid. The dust flies, and I see nothing of the gardens thou seest. The Guru blessed the land of Dalla. The Guru blessed the Punjab. Material prosperity too must wait on the door of his disciples. All must be added unto those who have given themselves to the love of his name. Only Dalla understood not the prophecy, nor do we understand it now, when we willingly go forward selling our Christ for a few pieces of silver, selling our soul for a mess of pottage. Heart lighting heart by the torch bearer that rides at night. Institution die as shadows. The lands and people where and to whom heaven sends religious geniuses become rich both with the inner and outer wealth. Nations rise like rivers in flood, and they go forward in ever-rising tide by the impulse so given. One man saves the whole race. Institutions spring and die after him as his shadows. Silent, deep life gives the spark of life unseen. A disciple went and lived with a poor man. He lived with him for a day and went away. The poor man soon rose in himself and found the circumstances of life bowing down to him. He became a living person who felt the thrill of a new life, and with the life come to him came in its wake prosperity too. Every event of life turned in his favor. What had the man of God added to the poor man that the world became different to him? He went and stayed with a rich man. He ate with him, smiled and laughed. The rich man followed him. As he went away without telling of his destination, the rich man shed his wealth and found new prosperity in the light of the day and a new kingdom in the peace of the moonlight. His eyes were kindled with the spirit of a poet, and he saw beauty everywhere. He became light as a bird and pure as a diamond. What had the man of God done to him that the world became different to him? He went and stayed with a sick person. The whole family loved the lady who was ailing. He ate his meals from the hands of the daughters of the lady who was ill. The sick mother was healed as he went away. What had the man of God done that the mother was healed? When I forget the man behind me. I met a Sikh who chanted the divine names. He was an inspired apostle of his great master. He loved me. He gave me bread and water. He proffered me his friendship. Strange to say, he accompanied me in my sleep to the realms of my dreams. He saved me from many dangers which would have crushed me. He helped me. He gave me clothes from his own bag when he saw me naked and shivering with cold. He charmed me with his sweetness. He enchanted me with the mystic color of his eyes and the infinite suggestion of the streak of his smile. But the most wonderful effect of this wondrous man was that his presence and ineffable silence kindled my heart with love of the Guru, whom I had never seen. I, standing in the shallow waters, become at once infatuated and proud and vain, thinking how suddenly the love of the Guru began burning in me. As I turned my back on him, I became again arid and sandy. The desert in me caught fire and hell itself flamed within me. Suddenly he came to me in my distress. The clouds gathered, rain fell, and all was cool again. Alas, I knew not in my vanity that it was all he and not I. He made the desert of my heart garden of roses. The sight of such a Sikh fills me with the love of God, so perfect in his realization of the beauty of his own master in himself. True beauty puts you not in mind of itself, but always of its creator. How the Sikh fascinates. A Sikh with his usual rugged exterior, with a turban covering his crown of the Guru's tresses, the beard of the Guru flowing down his chin in a way carrying the face of his master. This new initiate into the mystery of life and love comes to the home of a distant neighbor. This was a Hindu, clean-shaven as was customary in those times. A strange thing happens. The clean-shaven modern man finds the tree of hair sprouting in him. When he sees the shaving apparatus, he sheds tears and says, "No, the hair is not hair. It is that strange good Sikh coming into my soul and taking his abode in my heart. I am no more myself. I am new, different. I long for the natural simplicity of that Sikh. I fain would run away from the civilization of barber and tailor. Look, his very tresses are appearing on my head. Wonder of wonders, I am lost in him. I know not why. This growing hair of mine is a faith, a trust, something eternal, though I know that in seeming form they are as grass on top of a mountain. What else? What else? But what am I myself in seeming form? Mere clay wet with someone's blood." The peace of Simran. The moth dies, seeing the light it loves. The woman is dead forever in the chosen beloved of her heart. Bhai Nandlal, the poet and scholar, went to Anandpur to meet Guru Gobind Singh. One glance from the Guru was enough. The bee went deep and slept in the rare fragrance of the white lotus. Bhai Nandlal never left the presence after. Simran is death in love of him, but death love comes when it comes. His beauty falls on the soul like the sudden flash of fighting. The body then is mere vehicle of the Spirit of God. Asia was once lit up by Simran, the spiritual chant enunciated by the Buddha. All wore the yellow robe of poverty that he wore. All walked barefooted as he had done. All eyes were half closed with raptures of nirvana as the eyes of the Master. So the yellow bhikkhu is the pathetic remnant of that great glory of Simran that once shone over us. We of the Punjab were called to don the robe of the Guru's discipleship. We wear turbans as he did. We keep long hair as he kept. We prefer the colors he liked. We are still alive with the spark he lit in our souls. The torch, when lighting another, creates its own images. We carry the Guru's face, his features, his whole image in our face and form. As I ponder who I am, I knew I am of the Guru. The Great Love by the Five Horsemen. When the man hears the voice of the hidden God, what is the end of this great attraction? Surely it is different from knowledge. Knowledge has no wings to fly to those dizzy heights where the moon bird flies, covering the beauty of the moon with its intense desire. Ages pass, the book of knowledge are eaten up by worms, but the song of the cuckoo is never hushed. It pierces still the heart of summer. The bulbul and the rose still cry to each other in pain of separation, whose ecstasy is everlasting. The woman thinks loving is creating anew and pictures again and again the face and the images of man she so intensely loves. But innocence nestles in her heart and gives back the milk of life she received to life itself, and she knows it not. The man in love hears the voice of the hidden God, and he follows it and reaches a sacred place where the sun and the moon bow to him in submission, and all come and kiss his feet. The creation gathers in him, for he has already become a great temple where angels come to worship. The star burns incense, and all see God in him as the Muslims see their Eid moon. He is the Akali, the deathless man who walks on the waters and sits unharmed in the fire arching over him, singing the song of the masters. He is pure soul. When religion is power, it is enough to break the ribs of the mountains by a thought. It is enough to reduce great empires built on hate just by crushing them between its two lily-white palms. Its prayer is both the death and life, continents and nations. God's sword is bright. A poor man, clad in rags, exposed to wind and weather, his skin cracked but with eyes flashing the fire of the stars, once stood begging for alms from a vain rich merchant. Begging is bad, but he begged for the joy of it. The rich man treated him slightingly. The star-eyed man stood repeating his cry for alms. The merchant suddenly saw that behind that dreaming figure, careless and outworn, stood a man with long tresses who felt offended at the sight offered to his spirit-born son, and on the palms of that great being was lying trembling the whole city of the vain rich man, and the protecting hand was going to throw the city down into the abyss of eternal damnation. The rich man trembled, seeing the destiny that awaited him on that high precipice. The star-eyed man was not alone. Metaphorically, there is immediate waging of war by the king if his servants are slighted. God is jealous, and his sword is bright and flashing. That saint's white song. The Naam life of the saint sings day and night. Kabir says, holiness, and that only of a body shrine. No, a whole country is bathed in holiness by the moon floods of the saint's white songs. One who knows a Sikh fakir. What is your accomplishment, sir? Your eyes are red with wine that sparkles in the cup of the sky, and your face is incarnadined with the unfading rose that no one has yet seen. I cannot even write my name. I am an unlettered plowman of Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. But do not be taken in by my ignorance and humility. When aroused, my wrath is terrible. With my raised hand I tear the dynasties of tyrants like pieces of waste papers. And I start new dynasties of kings whose rule would be kind to the children of man. In my sigh are numberless clouds that rain down and cleanse the earth, and in my tears the great rivers that bless 1,000 generations of the man. I cannot even write my name. I am an unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions, but do not be afraid of me. I am as gentle as the mother is to the child, as forgiving as the babe to the mother, as good as water is to the unclean body. I have the large white love that is in the heart of the sun, and I love you as the sun loves flowers of this earth. You have not seen my love, you who have no eyes to see. I cannot even write my name. I am an unlettered ploughman of the Punjab, a poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. I have no language, neither the stars nor the sky have it, nor can I reply. Come, I will show you what is hidden in me. Behind the veil, you and I are one. Have you seen yourself? There in my heart are you, there in my eyes are you. But do not fear me. Come, I shall massage your tired limbs. I shall cool you with the shade that in my eyes. Come, I shall stroke your tresses and soothe their waves and comfort your weary soul. I am an unlettered ploughman of the Punjab. I cannot even write my name. A poor Sikh who knows none of your questions. I have no language. Neither has the river, the cloud, nor the forest that dwells by the mountain side. Come, I shall show you the fountains that have burst in me, and take you to the loveliest lonelinesses where the green leaf and the white ray hold quiet converse. Come, I will take you to a cave inside me where you will see what would make you speechless in joy and wonder, where the whole starry sky is gathered in a cave, there where God dwells in the toiling masses but is never seen by any mortal eyes, neither he nor those lying at his feet. They come and cut a Sikh like the log of wood into two. The Sikh chant, Glory to the Guru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru, came like soft music as they cut him like a log of wood into two. A mere man could not endure such pain and sing the song of peace when so tortured. The man was dead. The corpse of the Sikh was in the lap of the gods, and celestial beings took up the chant and sang, Glory to the Guru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. The Sikh chant, Glory to the Guru, came like soft music as they cut him into two like a log of wood. The robbers bound a Sikh hand and foot and dug a pit and put him into it, throwing loose earth deep up to his knees. They fled away with their booty. The Sikh thanked them. Guru be praised, friends. All is peace, while I can chant Glory to the Guru. I have taken the vow of life to live for him. I have taken the vow of death to die for him. But all my vows are the rambling notes of the songs of his pleasures that knows not their own aims nor their fulfillment. I do what he does when he comes into me and drives me to act. When his calls come, I go about, snapping all ties that bind me to this life ego-filled. I have taken the vow of love, and I wait on the roadside for him with tears in my eyes. At his sight I break loose of all convictions, for I am crazed with love. A Brahmajnani knower of the unknowable. An Akali, note, Cunningham, History of the Sikhs, 2nd edition, John Murray, page 110, footnote, editor's note. An Akali was digging the earth and making a pathway. He sweated hard in clearing the jungle, and he went on single-handed making the long pathway. And one of his own admirers, seeing a Brahmajnani hard at work, said to him, Sire, your eyes are the hawks of the Guru, your heart the temple of God. Why do you sweat so hard in making the pathway and tire your body with unnecessary labor? You have got the fruit of life in your luminous noble mien. For you, as the scriptures say, there is nothing left to be done. All tasks are ended for such as you, and all debts are paid. Sire, why do you sweat so hard making a pathway? As I have no work, the Brahmajnani Akali replied. I dig the earth and make this pathway. I am a spare person in this world, as you say. I dig the earth and make the pathway and rejoice in it. I set to task as the Master directs me. Exchanging sickness for health. Once he fell dangerously ill, and he grew worse and worse. After a few days he suddenly recovered. Someone was ill, he said. God has saved her. A lady came a few days after. She had suffered in those very days from the very malady, and she related how miraculously she was cured the day her physician had given her up. But she had no knowledge how the saint had suffered for her sake. Sadness is emptiness of soul. What is to be done when I fall away from the song of glory to God? When sadness comes and pierces me with a poisoned steel blade? Rise and take a dip in the cold water, said the saint. Run and cry as if your whole house was on fire. Chant the great Japji of Guru Nanak. Aye, even mechanically. Chant, chant, till you find in its deep, silent sound the golden ladder from heaven lowered to you by the hidden ones, your protectors in the realms of the spirit. The ladder would hang down as a vision resting on the chants of Japji. Rise then on the begemmed rungs of the ladder lowered to you, and rising on it, sing like an irrepressible happy boy. Yes, in mid-air, on the perilous heights, I shall come to take you in my arms and carry you to your hidden protectors. As you wake up from your sweet slumber in the infinite, you would have regained the notes of the paradise of peace within you, and no one would know what has really happened. Only you would be fascinating to yourself, and you need not speak aloud about these sacred things, for the learned will argue and call it idle dreams, and so it is till you. Know it from me. This is between you and me. Tell no one, for the visions fly if you begin of them the veil of love's dream. Tell no one, for the visions fly if you begin off them the veil of love's dream. This is the holy secret of a daily resurrection from the daily death that the serpent of illusion hurls at you with his hot breath. The world of the spirit. I do not understand what the learned say, but my guide used to tell me. He was a simple, guileless man. There is a world of spirits. Some sink like lead to earth. Some are thought imprisoned. They are too heavy to fly. And some are fettered forever by their own violent actions. Some go and rise a little higher up on the wings of good actions, but only a few chant glory to the Guru. Fly off like birds from the cage of this body. Each breath is an opportunity afforded us to break our fetters of matter and break into the chant, glory to the Guru. We waste our breaths, we spill them in the mire. The odors of our breath are foul, our flesh is rank with negligence. We run after the mirage of Maya and get bitten by the serpent of indifference. Our very existence stinks. Our helpers fly away from us. We cry and weep, but what avail is mere tear shedding? It is hard to breathe the Spirit of God. Can such great destiny be ours without incessant labor? O disciple, labor as the child at school labors in muttering his lessons, his alphabets without understanding. A man of the world asked a man of God to dinner. Yes, he said, I will come. But he came not. Perhaps he hovered in the celestial regions instead of remembering his engagements on earth for that day. Next day, the poor host began complaining. Sir, you accepted my invitation and you did not come. Ah, well, I did say yes, did I? And I did say no, did I? So I did not come. And without much parleying with him, the man of God hurriedly went away. The Sikh has no sense of private property. A herd of cows and buffaloes came and fell upon a straw fodder heap belonging to the little shrine of the holy man Savaiya Singh of Amritsar. Note, The saint lived in Amritsar in the last years of the 19th century. An attendant of the shrine ran with a stick and drove away the cattle. The man of God saw him as he returned, said, "Who are you, my dear fellow, to drive the dumb cattle away, as they came and waited at the Guru's door for a meal? Go away, you will not do here. Who think of mine and dine in a place in whose roof the immortal flag of the Guru waves high? Men of God consciousness seek themselves. Men of Simran seek quietly, the seeker after God aid them." A Sikh devotee lay ill, and Sant Savaiya Singh came of himself and just sat by him. He was silent for a while, looking at him, and went away. The Sikh devotee felt that his mind got a new lustre from the holy man's visit, and the song of Simran began resounding in him with a new rhythm, with the shine of 100 candles burning in a temple. True manners are perfumes of love. A Sikh Sant, note, a holy man, its sound resembles saint, but the two terms bear distinct though similar connotations. A Sikh Sant passed by a while, note, he might be a simple person from the so-called lower castes. The good man figuring above would obviously be a person claiming to be religious without the spirit of true religion in them. A Sikh Sant passed by a vile man, came and offered him the first ripe orange of the season. He accepted and felt pleased. He blessed him and went away. Another day, a quotes, good man came and offered him almonds. The Sant felt perturbed, as if the acceptance of the good man's almonds would be like a cup of poison. He threw them out of the window, and every visit of the good man had so disturbed him that he would not sleep the whole night and had to work hard, keep vigil, and chant repeatedly the Guru's word till the song of Simran returned with its live silver chime to his veins. He slept singing, and he woke a song himself. And to those gathered around him that morning he said, "Why do these quotes, good people of the world come and vex the roses of God? They come in their rolling chariots, threw all their dust on the face of the roses and extinguished their gem-like glow. And why do they bring almonds to me? The dry crust of bread and a cup of water for me is enough. Only they should have mercy on me and come not to kill me by their courtesies. The other day, quote, vile man loved me and offered me a ripe orange. By accepting it from him, I felt happy like a child, but these almonds have hurt me. Life is glorious. Long is the path and unending. Distant is the goal, forever receding. As the child toils hard for the knowledge of this world, you toil your hardest for the knowledge of God. Each life breath is like a purse full of gems. Man has not loosened the strings nor seen the rich contents of his own life. Guru Granth. Rapturous unions. A Sikh yogi was lying one night under the sky on the roof of his host house, wrapped in the thought of the divine beloved. It began drizzling, and the host came, and all too afraid to disturb him, he said, "Sire, it's raining, come in." No reply came. The yogi was drenched. The water ran under him. And the host came again, saying, "Sire, it is raining, come in." The yogi got up and went out of the house, saying, "I came thinking, you are one of the assembly that know the secret of union, Sat Sang. I shall never come again to you, who separated me from the embraces of the Lord." Spirit is power that guides life. In the life of the Spirit lies power. Spirituality is strength of God Himself. All matter obeys that power. Spirituality is His supreme unconcern that forgives and gives in measureless measures. It is also His supreme passion that makes both the young maiden's cheek and the rose blush with the divine colors of love. and it is as small and sweet as the smile of the baby and keen as the concern of the mother. It is jealous in its protection and selection. There are inscrutable differences in the character of created life. Some are thrown away and some are kept quite close to him by him. This choice configuration, however, varies from moment to moment. The cleansing of souls is with life-blood. Do not come to me in numbers, said a Sikh devotee. Come one by one. I feel enfeebled by your visits. My power seems gone. Be heroic in acquiring divine knowledge. Be not afraid of discipline. Discipline gives you the perfection of freedom when there is no more of discipline. Rise, give up drowsiness of spirit by intention, O disciple, and like the soldiers storming a fort, you charge again and again the fort of the ego and take it. This is freedom at last. He who has conquered the self has conquered the whole world. Guru Nanak in Japji. Simran is ascent to the moral life. Labor, pure physical labor, is needed for gathering the beauty of God scattered as gleams in the trembling dreams of Maya. An incessant chant of glory to the Guru eventually transports you where angels come and form above your head a canopy with their wings. No hot breaths of the wind of differences blow there. Simran is companionship of angels invisible that rejoice seeing you, naming him. Simran is seeing God's glory, feeling it, drinking it, swallowing it, and being it a song, a prayer, a flame, a sword. Note, this last line, like all else in these outpourings, expresses the Sikh ideal of the religious life which integrates with divine laudation, prayer and devotion, intense idealism and the crusading spirit.